Welcome back to the Jane Austen 250th Anniversary Block of the Month Sew-Along. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on the Hampshire Block. I've already appliqued this block, but before we get started, I wanted to highlight last month's block. It's the Chatham Block. Congratulations if you finished this block. This was a very ambitious applique block. So this is going to feel like a piece of cake. But isn't it beautiful? Isn't it wonderful to have the center of our quilt finished? Keep going if you're not quite done. Just keep pacing and enjoy the journey of applique. So let's talk about the Hampshire Block. Jane Austen was born in Hampshire, England, in the village of Steventon. She spent the first 25 years of her life there, and by all accounts, it was an idyllic childhood. So we're excited to start with Hampshire. So this is what the Hampshire Block looks like. It's got 4 flowers and 4 leaves with a stem cross in the middle. It comes in 4 different colorways, so you're going to be repeating this block 4 times. This is the block number 2. I started with number 2. This is block number 1. According to the pattern, this is the 4th block, I think. I've got them out of order. And this is the 3rd block that we're going to be assembling. Okay, so you've previously downloaded the pattern, and this Hampshire Block is on page 11 and 12. And it highlights the colors in each of these blocks, and it gives you the fabric requirements for each of the blocks. And on page 12, it shows you the layout. So there is a background fabric, and we have already, it's a 10 by 10 square, and we've previously folded it in half and half again to make deep creases to help us in the layout of this block. Now you need your Sew Simple shapes, V20 and V11, and I previously traced them out like we did in the last video. And then you're going to put them right sides together. The sew-in interfacing does not have a right side, but your fabric does. So you're going to have your fabric up, the interfacing on top, and you're going to sew these Sew Simple shapes. I'm going to give them a quick sew. A reminder that I always sew on the side, and I move my stitch length is 1.85, and I'm using a 60 weight thread with an open toe foot. Again, I sew on the side. You're going to be making a lot of these little units. So get to the end, and then you're going to pivot your foot. And then I don't backstitch, I just overstitch on where I started. That one's finished. Again, starting on the side. Now some of these blocks you might want to fussy cut, but this is just a little repeat of pattern, so I'm not going to fussy cut this. Or you can always see how the fusible interfacing you can see through, and you can adjust your fabrics a little bit, but on this pattern it doesn't really call for fussy cutting or moving your design to any particular spot. You're going to get faster at this, and having a tighter stitch length helps you in those curves. I'm going to come up to the top of that point right there. I think I'm going to do one more stitch. Pivot. Okay, these are all sewn, and we're going to trim around them. This is a quick trim. Again, a reminder that you only have to clip your cleavages and your tips. So I can clip my tip, getting close to those threads right there, not too close, because you don't want to clip them at all. You can trim down to 1/4 inch. Sometimes I do slightly less than 1/4 inch. I'm going to go over there. Okay, clip the tips, clip the tips. And now those cleavages. Oh, I always like my little snips. There they are. I have much more control when I'm using these little snips. Okay, we're going to turn right sides out. First we pull up that interfacing, making a little cross. Now this one, you're going to have to cut it longer. That's why I'm demonstrating this for you. You're going to go down a little bit longer on that little leaf point right there. Okay, oh, I think I need to clip that a little. Okay, let's turn these right side out. Again, you've got to make a lot of these for these 4 flowers. But this quilt block is very portable, easy to take with you, and sew on the go, as I say. Sometimes you just have time in the car if you're not driving, if you're the passenger. Okay, so I do push those fabric fibers gently and then try and get a nice little point there without poking through. And sometimes you go on the inside too. I go on the outside and the inside of that interfacing and give it a nice little point. If you go on the inside of the interfacing right there, you're guaranteed to not poke through your fabric, but I also go on the other side too. You can push harder on the interfacing to pull that to a point. Okay, here we go. Take a look at that. Look at those beautiful points. Do you see that right there? If you go on the inside of your interfacing like that and a little bit on the outside and you've clipped the tops there, you get those beautiful points on top. Do you see that? So that looks good to go. Okay. I'm going to clean up this workstation here. Now we're going to turn this inside out. This one's a little smaller. It's a little more delicate to turn inside out. Okay. We're going to just be a little more gentle with this. Coming down here. It's a little more fiddly. So just a little more fiddly. So you can kind of roll your fabrics, you see, like that. Since it's a natural fiber, it's just, that corner's looking pretty good. But if you have little pokies on the corner, not to worry, because we're gonna applique those in. Again, you can choose to machine applique this project. Okay, I'm trying to get that little tip of that leaf. Just work it Work it a little bit. Okay, take a look. Sometimes, because it is such a narrow area, I am gonna give it a quick little press to pull that inner facing behind. You see that? So I'm gonna give that a press. Okay, there we go. We would finish all the pieces and get ready to assemble that, but we've already got our pieces done. So I'm going to put this down here. And it is on a background fabric, but I've got this folded and ready to go, so I'm going to move this to the side. Now let's take a look of our applique piece, and again, you can kind of, like, you're not going to have yours laid out, but I like how this is laid out, so I'm using it for measurements. So you can take your piece. I'm just taking a look at what I did before because I like what I've done. I'm going to put it on here. Now you can take your friction pen and mark where you're going to trim down. Oh, let's see, my friction pen was right here. And this, again, your friction pen is, you can iron it off as when you're ready to press that. But if you don't like to use a friction pen, use pins. So that is centered. And I'm going to lay we're going to do our stems first. They cross in the center, so I fold them there and just kind of give it a look. Okay. Okay. Looking good. Now I'm going to grab my little applique glue, and some people put it right onto the applique, and some people put it on the background fabric. I'm going to put it right on my little piece right there. Do you see those teeny, teeny little dots? They're like little pins. And I'm going to pull that up, make sure it's even on both sides. And you're going to put it center on that fold right there. There you go. Just hold it for a second. Hold it right there. Okay? Now these teeny little applique dots. Because what you don't want to do is get glue on your edges where you're trying to applique. Okay, I'm going to center that there. I'll put it over there. There you go. And if it's having a hard time, maybe you can get just a little dot. Sometimes I give it a quick little press. And I'm not pressing the whole thing because I don't want to press my seams out, or my folds out, rather. Okay, so give that a little press like that. Now let's add the flowers on top. They kind of look like little cute little tulips. And it's your choice how low you want them to go, but I kind of lay everything out. What you want is just to be consistent on the block, and each block, so they look very similar. Okay. Oh, flip it over. The point goes right there in the center. Well, right there at the crossed stems. Do you see that? Okay, they just kind of hug each side of the leaf. So I'm going to take a look at this again, the center. I'm going to just put it over here. I'm going to move those in. And you can use your ruler. This is helpful too. So the center of my block, it's 1.5 inches. No, it's 1 inch and 3/4. I'm doing 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to pull that in here, pull that in here. Okay, once you have this all laid out and it's just where you want it to be, I would recommend you lay each of the blocks out. So once you have each of the blocks laid out, just measure them again and make sure they're all equal. They look very similar. Again, a reminder to just do, I would probably do 4 little applique glued little drops there. I'd probably do 1, 2, 3 right here, avoiding the edges. And now we're ready to start appliquing. So I'm going to grab one of my blocks that has already been glued. And again, sometimes I glue it and let it sit for a couple hours at least, maybe an hour. It's tacky enough or it's dried enough that you're okay to applique, and you can even just glue them and the next day come back to it or whenever you get to it. So this is ready to go. Again, those leaves are a little more snug. This is centered. I don't think I highlighted that, but you want to make sure that center of the, I'll grab this right here, that center of that tulip or that little flower is right there on the line there. Just lines up there, center there, center there. Again, just check it before you start appliquing. Looks good. Looks like it's ready to go. Okay, so this block is very portable. It's small enough that you can put it in your purse. A lot of times I will roll it up like this because I don't, now that it's all glued down, I don't like to fold it. So a lot of times if I take a project, I'll roll it up. And you can work at it a little part at a time. When I'm appliquing this, I'm going to start with my stem in the center. This is my Jane Austen pincushion. Isn't that so cute? In a little teacup, or teapot, rather. There's a cute little teapot, and then there's a little cushion on top. Isn't that cute? We made that especially for the 250th anniversary. Okay. So when I'm starting this little cross stem, I start right here in the center. And I'm going to go up and down. And you could go across if you prefer and down, or you could pivot right there, back, back, and then up and down, and then you're going to finish in the center. So a little reminder, I start from the back. And I sew right next to my stitch using a really nice matching thread, a really closely matched matching thread. Like I said, sometimes I tend to go a little darker if it matches a little bit better, because when you wind out your thread, if it's a little bit darker, it's going to look usually perfect with your fabrics. And then I pull it up. So I go next to it, just taking a teeny little bite of fabric. I love applique so much. I think it's so much fun. But a lot of people would rather machine piece, which is a-okay, right? Now I'm just going to go to the top. And I just see this is a little bit loose. I'm going to just lift up the skirts here, right here. And I'm going to go underneath that flower. I'm going to go across the way and take a bite on the other side. Flip my project around. And we're going to go down the other side. I'm using a Sue Daly Milliner size 11 needle. I really love this needle. Okay. And that is how I do the stem. Again, I would probably go across, down, this side, down, across, and then finish right there in the corner. The next thing I would do, depending on how floppy these little leaf pieces are, I might, if they're in my way, I would do those second. And I tend to start in that corner so that this little tip of the leaf is right there in the corner, and I just sew around there, finish, sew around each of the leaves. I stop and start at each leaf. I usually don't carry across. That's just my personal preference. If they are not bugging you, if the leaves aren't bugging you, I would do the tulip or this flower piece next. And I always start in the center right here to just make sure that center flower is centered on that stem. So I'd start here and do all the edges and end there, tying off a knot in the back. And then this block is finished. You're going to repeat that 4 times. Again, that's going to be a piece of cake from what you've done before. This is what it looks like finished. Again, I would wait to press this and trim it up till you finished all your other blocks. I'd put it someplace safe and get working on all these blocks, because you're going to be through with this before you know it, because this is a nice, easy block to work on. So join me next time for the next block in the Jane Austen Block of the Month Sew Along. It's called Kent, and I'll see you next month.